Yeah, okay, mate. Welcome to the group, by the way. So let's look here at TA on ARB, Magic, and SUI. Obviously, we do want to see Bitcoin crashing or dropping hard. That would negatively affect altcoins. But this here, so far, ARB, you have to think, is holding up very, very, very well. Extremely well so far. And this also, it can go two ways here. It's not good that this has flipped red, right? It's not good this flipped red. But what it is good, this was very bearish at one point. Like we had dropped the whole way back down here, and now we have come back up, right? That shows that there's buyers in this, down in this candle, that are attempting to push this higher. That is a good sign. It gives us a clue that potentially even next week, this wants to have a dip back down in here, something like this on a new week, and dip down, because there's only 1 day left, 1 day and 12 hours. So if we dip back down into here, into a new week, somewhere down, for example, a 30 to 50% of the way down here, and start to see some strength in that area right in here, that can be a buy point. We can watch down in here. Might even drop that a little bit. We can watch kind of down in that area there for some buyers, and maybe, you know, you could even watch a 10-minute chart, and even a daily chart. If you remind me during the week, I will look at this again. I would actually like to buy this if we can see the right candles and the right work. You know, dip down, see some strength, and then start to work our way back up. And then obviously, well, ideally you want it to flip green on the week, and then you can get continuation to the upside. So at this point, I mean, I wouldn't be buying today. I would be buying next week on a dip down in here, right? That's where you'd be looking for it, somewhere a dip down into that level. You can kind of see this wick here. Now it is different. It is very different, I suppose. But it is a long wick. This is a long wick. But you can see, you know, if you had bought somewhere down in here in the 30 to 50% way, yeah, yes, it wasn't the exact low, but you can see that this level was a decent level, and you got some upside. If you had bought in there and held on spot or whatever, you would already be up 10%, maybe a bit more. So that's what you'd be looking for here, the dip down on a new week, and then look to trade that higher into, well, the next order block, I suppose, if you want to look at that, is up here, right? But you want to see the level holding. That's the first and foremost thing that you want to be looking out for. If you see the level holding, well, then later you can start to look for targets up here. But that is a target up there, of course. But the most important thing is to be watching down here and try and get in there safely. Now, the monthly chart on ARB, this needs to stay green, right? You do not want to see this flip red, because if this flips red, it's probably going to go a lot lower. Okay, so the dip needs to be fairly small. Let's go back to the weekly there. So you can see there, that's the monthly open roughly. So you want to see a small dip down. Well, when I say small, but exactly what we talked about, and then get continued upside. That's what you'd be after. Anything that dips below this line right here at $1.15, $1.15, that's very bearish. That is not what you want to see. Now, Magic, I did post, well, is it a weekly chart? Yeah, I did post in here, somewhere in here. Although this was a bad rejection, there was coins in the bull market last two years ago that done this exact pattern right here. And it actually went and mooned, right? It actually did mooned. So this broke down here on Magic. This weekly chart broke down on Magic. But when the market was in a bull market mode, these patterns had broke up the ways. Okay, so this failed and did not break up the ways and broke down the ways. That shows the weakness of the market, the lack of strength in the market, the lack of buyers, the lack of money, the lack of volume. So it's a telling factor. You know, the market is not ready to be super bullish yet. In the meantime, for Magic, this is a red 3-month candle. All right, so that tells us that there's not too much. I mean, if you're accumulating or anything, it's good to buy the dips. But if you're looking to trade this to the long side, this is already 2 months of the way through it. You can see here there's a 1 month left, 27 days left. Now, this is unlikely to flip green here on this quarter. It's likely to stay red. And if it's likely to stay red on this quarter, well, that means that there's not much upside in Magic for the next 27 days. So what you're probably best doing is wait for a new quarter, right? And on a new quarter, then you can look for something along these lines, something that's probably something that wicks down into this wick here, for example. You usually get a wick. You don't always get a wick like here. You didn't get a wick, but I'm just saying right now we need to see how this finishes. But then you'd look to trade and buy. I assume you're looking to buy, not short. But if you're looking to buy, you then look to buy when it flips green, or you can try and buy the dip, right, on a new quarter. And then as it trades higher, then you can stay in that trade. Potentially you could stay in that trade for the full 3-month candle, as long as it stays green, because you may get some upside into the end of the quarter. And what if, now I don't think there will be yet, but what if there's 2 quarters in a row to the upside, right? So what if we move up here and then move up the next quarter? It's a possibility, but I'm just saying that there's limited upside here on Magic. This has already moved to the upside in here and failed, and we've come back down. So I think the bounces here on Magic are probably going to be small, and it's best to wait until a new quarter for this. SUI is a brand new coin. It's first ever quarter. So let's break it down a bit. You can see the monthly. Now, one thing I will say, let me just break it down to different time frames before I do see it. It's beating me to it. I was about to say, when you get opens like this, a lot of times you can consolidate sidewards like that. When I seen this monthly candle here, and even before that, when I seen this, I was thinking that even the 3 months, sometimes you can consolidate in here for a period of time after an opening candle like this. Obviously this candle is not finished yet, so we don't know how it's going to close, but the monthly candle is already starting to do that. It's starting to kind of give a consolidation candle. This is kind of your opening range, and usually you get some sort of chop in between that opening range. Now in a strong bull market, they can do something like this and you can just continue off that, to be fair, but it's not the norm. The norm is to get sort of inside chop. But let's break it down further to see what is happening here. Yeah, it's in a drifting lower mode. Probably can go lower as well. A lot of times you see these new candles open up and they drift down to the 50% range. I probably should draw more than a line there, but somewhere down into that sort of ballpark before you get a reaction. Now that's a 2-week candle. Let's keep breaking it down here so you can see that there. I would keep an eye on it on a new week, right? Because sometimes you do get bounces back up. At this point, it is looking like there's probably more downside. It's just drifting at the moment, but there is always the chance, right? There's always the chance you can get a bit of a move back up. Even 1 week's trade, you can make very good money. So, we'll have to watch on a new week. For example, because this drift is nice. Sometimes when you drift like this, you can get a decent, a bit of a bounce even before going lower again. And one thing to look for, and I don't know if you'll get that, but is a kind of a bullish stop hunt kind of thing. When price does, because this is still a weak candle. That's a pretty poor candle with 1 day and 12 hours to go. So if it pops down and takes out this low, and then comes back up inside, you could look to get long on that with a very tight stop and see if this can run to the upside. But this drift here, I have a feeling that there's probably going to be more of it. Yes, there can be small bounces, and then you probably come back down and then do something like that. I have a feeling that there probably is more drift, but this initial drift is interesting. There may be a trade for a spike up. Right, there may be a trade for a spike up, but I do anticipate more sort of chop, maybe down here or whatever, and then chop about for a bit. It's quite normal after huge moves like this, because when you get these huge moves off the open, like that's a 12x move. You can see that's a 12x move. Some people had bought down there. Now I'm not saying that this is a legit 12x move on Binance, but people in the ICO, for example, let's look at the indicators to see what our indicators have been doing, just for the record. So you can see it nailed the low right here. That could have been a beautiful trade. Look at that, 5 or 6% gain right on that. This nailed the low right here as well for an absolutely beautiful gain of another 7%. Nailed the absolute low. This, I mean, you know, if you look at it all, it nailed the exact lows of this entire move down. Yes, it wasn't the exact low. I shouldn't say exact low, but very, very close. I mean, there was only, you know, if you got in on this wick here, for example, there was a 2 to 3% wick to the downside, but you can see it was right after this long downtrend. So it was a very good signal, and you can see what happened. If you managed to hold anywhere down there, there was a 14% bounce off that. So all in all, so far, our indicator's been doing pretty well. Now here's a bad one. Here's a bad one actually. It is a bad one, but it's not a bad one. Our rules are that if you get big breakdowns like this and you consolidate sideways like this with no strength and no upside, this is considered to be a bear flag, and you want to get out of that bear flag. You do not want to be holding, and you want to be getting out. Yeah. So although it's not a good signal, if you follow the rules, they're there to help protect you. Now this one, you had a chance. There was 2 wicks down here, so obviously you could have got on these wicks, and there was well, there was 4 or 5% bounce if you got on the wicks. Obviously not too much upside if you waited to candle close. Well, there's still 2% upside, but this one, and I'm getting sidetracked here, but I'm just pointing out that the indicator can really, it does really help in finding entries and stuff. So let me just delete that there now. Yeah, what I wanted to look at was this 10-minute candle. This is where we opened on Binance and we just absolutely mooned. That's what I was trying to check. And you can see it was at 10, 12, 14, 19x off the open. Now all these people on the ICO would have bought this, and you can see the large volume. So it's very, very normal to be getting some downside. Now it doesn't fit in the chart there. All these people in the ICO continue to sell off and sell some of their tokens, which usually results in this action, right? That's a very normal action. So I think this will continue. At some point there may be a spike, but I do see it being choppy for a period. Now tomorrow is a new 2-week candle, as you can see up here, new 2-week candle. So it will be important to kind of focus on that to see if we can get some upside. As I mentioned, I would be looking to see if there is the possibility of creating a bit of a stop hunt below this low. Otherwise, if it is red, I would wait and have patience and let this drop lower. There is a good chance in time this is going to continue to drop lower. I would say that this is more unlikely. I would say more likely is that we have another red candle to the downside. Pretend that's a red candle there. So I would say that is more likely to get another red candle to the downside, but I would be open to watching and seeing if we can get a bullish stop hunt here like this, a small dip down that can flip green and get us a bounce back up. There might be a trade in that, but I think ultimately it does roll over more.